104 Evergreen Road. She is the Assistant City Clerk and has worked in the City Clerk's office for 31 years. The format for tonight's forum will be this. Each of the candidates will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. Following that, I will ask questions that have been prepared by editors and reporters at the Gazette and submitted from the audience here tonight. After those questions, each of the candidates will have an opportunity to ask their opponents 2 questions, and finally, we will have closing statements. Now we will start with opening statements. The order was determined by a draw just before the forum began, and the first opening statement will be delivered by Patty Shaughnessy.
Hi, I'm Patricia Shaughnessy. I am loyal to my husband and my family. I am loyal to my friends and my community. And equally as important, I am loyal to my job responsibilities. You have 2 very qualified candidates for City Clerk, but it is my leadership and management experience and skill that makes me the person who can bring the City Clerk's office forward, especially with the merging of the Registrar and City Clerk's offices. After graduating from the University of Massachusetts in 1973, every job that I've held has been in a leadership management role. I've been responsible for developing fiscally responsible budgets, interviewing, hiring, firing, and evaluating staff, training staff and volunteers, developing and implementing policies and procedures, being responsible for the oversight of everything that happens in the department, and readily accepting that as a department head that the buck stops with me. I served as a registrar of voters for 23 years, with 17 of those being the full-time clerk of the board. In 1984, when I started, there was no staff in that department, and we had a presidential primary and election looming before us. It was my leadership and management skills that made those elections happen, and it was a department that became a gem to the city and to the community that could rely on that department. The Office of the Registrar of Voters has many responsibilities, more so than just registering people. Most of everything that's done needs to be done by federal or state law. I've initiated many other programs within that department and at the Council on Aging. Let my leadership and management experience work for you as your next city clerk.
Second statement will be given by Wendy Mazza.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Daily Hampshire Gazette and Stan Moulton for hosting this forum. I'm Wendy Mazza. I'm a write-in sticker candidate for city clerk. I'm a lifelong resident of Northampton and educated in the Northampton school system. I've worked in the city clerk's office for 31 years and have served under 2 former city clerks, James E. Faulkner and Adeline Murray, and for the last 13 years as the assistant city clerk for Chris Skorupski. I'm proud to have the full support and endorsement of our present city clerk. I've gained the knowledge and ability to run all aspects of the department, from being a junior clerk, senior clerk, and principal clerk in the office. The office is a source of information and assistance to citizens and relates to city officials as well as boards and committees. At the state level, there are duties and responsibilities under the jurisdiction of the Secretary of State, Division of Fisheries and Wildlife, and the courts. The city clerk is responsible for running elections. The filing of birth, death, and marriage records make this seemingly simple function extremely complex, and the failure to observe Chapter 46 can result in serious consequences for the city clerk and parties involved. There are public notice filings, licenses and permits, and miscellaneous responsibilities, which are too numerous to mention. The assistant city clerk assists the city clerk in the performance of the duties of the office. The reason you may not have heard from me before this election is that the city clerk's office has a quiet competence that people have come to expect. The office is mandated by federal, state, and city ordinances, and everyone is treated equally. I ask the voters for their confidence. Please write in Wendy Mazza for city clerk on November 4th, and allow me to continue working in the job I love and have quietly done for 31 years.
Mark Hickey.
Hello, I am Mark Hickey. In January, I will be the Ward 3 chairman of the Republican Committee. In May of this year, a petition was circulated with hundreds and hundreds of Northampton citizens signing, asking that a city employee's inappropriate conduct be investigated and action be taken. Not only did nothing happen, but the mayor had the audacity to tell the citizens in attendance that they would not be allowed to speak at this issue. Apparently, the First Amendment has no authority if what you have to say goes against the ideology of the mayor. We have a mayor in Northampton who represents a percentage of the people, not the entire public. If you are not an extreme liberal activist, City Hall wants nothing to do with you. Average Joe has no place in NoHo, and that was not an accident. It was by the design of the Ford Higgins administration. If I am elected, Northampton will, for the first time in 4 years, have a man on the inside. Not since the days of Phil Sullivan on City Council did the city have someone fighting for the people instead of the administration. I will have first-hand knowledge of the budget. I will go over that budget with a fine-tooth comb, looking for ways to save your taxpayer dollars. Believe me, there are plenty. The most glaring example is in the city planning department. Why is so much of Northampton's dollars wasted in the planning department? Why can a city the size of Springfield get away with only having 7 employees, while Northampton needs 9? If management is that incompetent, then there needs to be new management. Change is needed, and change is what I offer. If a city clerk is what you are looking for, Wendy and Patty will be fine city clerks. But if you want more, if you are looking for an insider, a watchdog, and a fighter for the people of Northampton who is in no way subservient to the mayor, I am the only choice. I am Mark Hickey. Help me help you by writing in my name for city clerk on Tuesday.
Thank you. Okay, the first question will go first to Wendy. Beyond the jobs you've held for municipal government, how have you given of your time to other activities that benefit the people of Northampton?
Well, most of my activities have not been community-related. They've been private activities involved with taking care of finances of a gentleman that has a handicapped child. I have given my time at the nursing home, Linda Manor Nursing Home, repeatedly, and I do it quietly.
Mark?
I've done a lot for this city in many ways. I've politicked for Governor Romney. I've politicked for Phil Sullivan. I have also been a volunteer, well, I was formerly a volunteer with the Northampton High School football team for many years assisting Frank Tudrin.
And Patty?
I grew up in a household where volunteering was sort of the natural thing to do, and I have continually been involved with the schools in Northampton. I'm very involved with our church activities. I'm involved with SOS and VINS because I think it's very important to have a relationship with others in your community, and I try to instill that also in my own family.
Okay, the second question will go first to Mark. The city clerk's office is used by many members of the public seeking such things as permits, certificates, and licenses. Are there any changes that you feel are needed to make the office more responsive to the public's needs?
I just think the city clerk's office should be open to the public. Christine Skorupski did a very fine job of that. I'm sure if Wendy Mazza got in, she would keep up the excellent work. That would be done. So would I. That's what's important about public office. There was a letter in the Gazette a couple months ago complaining about the treasurer and how she would not release public information to a certain individual and that there had to be a lawyer needed. That's ridiculous. A city clerk works for the people, not for the administration, not for anyone else, but the people of Northampton, and that's what I would bring to the job.
Patty?
Always as a city employee, public service, the customer is always the most important entity in the department. And as I said from the very beginning when I chose to run, that I would like to see the city clerk's office open one evening a week. People's lifestyles have changed, and ours should change as well. The other thing that I think is important, we have a large Hispanic Latino community in Northampton, and at the first opportunity, I would hire a bilingual employee.
And Wendy?
Could you repeat the question?
Yes, the clerk's office is used by many members of the public who are seeking things like permits, certificates, and licenses. Are there any changes that you feel are needed to make the office more responsive to the public's needs?
In 2001, part of my performance evaluation was to come up with a customer service survey. The survey's been placed on the counter now for 2 years, and we asked questions to that nature. And in that 2-year period of time, there has never been one negative comment on how the office has delivered service. And I have welcomed counselors and the public to come in and look at those surveys because it tells the truth about our office. And I think night hours are great, but I think it's a policy of the city property committee. And I think that if we're going to look at opening the office at night, we also need to look at the expense of keeping it open at night for lights, heat, custodial, and there's a security issue there. But I also think that there are other customer-related offices that we should be able to sit down with the mayor and those departments to see if, when the budget looks a little bit better, if we could work with the other departments also to open evening hours with them.
The next question will go first to Patty. Merging the offices of the city clerk and registrar of voters is a strong likelihood now in Northampton. What are the advantages and disadvantages of such a plan, and how would you manage that merger?
I think my experience of being the registrar of voters for 23 years will give me the expertise to do that. I'm a team player. I would say that merging the two offices is a great benefit to this community. Back in 2001, I did a survey of the best way of 3 ways that the office can function, meaning the merging of the two departments. That with the city clerk being the clerk of that board, it will, 1, provide better communication and understanding for the general public, and it also can be a cost savings.
Wendy.
I'm not against the plan. I'm very happy to work with the mayor when the plan is finally in place. The mayor had spoke of the plan in her budget message. Due to the budget constraints, I believe that the transition will be smooth. And the city clerk's office does a great portion of the election. So the piece that the registrar does, I think will be able to roll into our office very nicely. And I don't believe that there will be any problems with that.
Mark?
For once, I agree with the mayor. I think it's a good idea. I think it will save a lot of money. It's basically the same. The people are going to be in contact with the same people, so it saves a lot of paperwork, saves a lot of time. It's a good idea.
Okay, the next question goes first to Wendy. Northampton, like most communities, faces the continued prospect of little or no growth in municipal budgets. Would you consider recommending additional fee increases in your office, in the city clerk's office, to increase revenue? Or what other ideas do you have for operating the city clerk's office more efficiently to save money?
Well, in just this year, the mayor had asked the departments to look within their budgets and look within the operation of the office to see where we could find additional revenue. And our office, since it's mandated by federal, state, and city ordinances, it's very limited where you can find increased fees. So effective July 1st of this year, we increased our vital records fees and other miscellaneous filing fees to generate additional revenue. And other than that, there really isn't too many other places with the clerk's office to generate fees, other than we do notaries. We're notary publics in the office, but other than that, there isn't a whole lot of area there that you can really increase fees and stay within the norm of the surrounding communities.
Mark?
I absolutely would not be in favor of raising taxes, raising fees. I think it's ridiculous. People in the city have to pay enough money as it is without having to pay $75 to register your dog with the city. There's a lot of ways to cut money in this city. There's a lot of fat in this budget. There's no need to stick it again to the people.
I don't believe.
Patty.
I don't believe fees are the best way to do anything because it really means it's affecting each and every person who uses city services. When I was in the registrar's office, there are certain things mandated by law, but you can go beyond that and say, what more can we do? And one of the things that I proposed and initiated and enacted was a passport acceptance facility, which is bringing $30 per customer. It's only the people who need a passport that are coming in. It's not interfering with every single individual in the city. It's somebody who needs the service. Doing commissions to qualify, getting people to come in and taking their oaths as notaries or justice of the peace. Those were out-of-the-box thinking. There are many things that can be looked at beyond what is offered within the department so that you can do more for the community without taxing the person with fees and taxing them with fees.
Okay, the next question will go first to Mark, and I'm going to collapse a couple of questions that have been submitted about education. In general, what educational background would you bring to the city clerk's job, and specifically, what opportunities have you availed yourself of more recently to make you better prepared to be city clerk?
Well, I was a product of the Northampton schools. I went to Leeds Elementary, then I went to this very school, then I graduated from Northampton High School in '93. I then went on to Holyoke Community College, and that's where I stopped. That was enough for me. And what was your other half of the question?
What opportunities have you taken more recently to prepare yourself to be city clerk?
What more can you do than campaign? That's what I've been doing for the last few weeks, the last few months. Unfortunately, me and my wife have been sick this month. I haven't gotten to campaign as much as I would have liked to. I, of course, would have liked to had signs and stuff like that all over the city, like Wendy and Patty have. But priorities. My wife's a lot more important than a lawn sign.
Okay, Patty?
Could you repeat the question,
Yes.
please?
The question is, in general, what educational background do you bring to the job of city clerk? And more specifically, what have you done more recently to better prepare yourself in terms of training to be city clerk?
With my degree from UMass, there were a lot of supervision management courses, and I think all of that has helped me. Customer service classes along the way, learning how to be a passport acceptance facilitator, becoming a notary, a justice of the peace, all things working with people. But also, all the time that I was the registrar, I attended seminars, workshops, various meetings with city and town clerks, and a lot of times I did that on my own time and at my own expense. And I continue to do that. I am not in the registrar's office other than as a volunteer, but I still continue to work and talk and interact with other city and town clerks.
And Wendy?
Well, all I can say is that I've had 31 years of experience in the office. Every day is a different day in the office. The city clerk had continued to go to the town and city clerks meetings anytime they were held. She had continued to bring back information to me. I was not able to go because there always had to be someone in the office to make sure that the office was running properly. And in fact, in July, she went to the town and city clerk's picnic, brought back information from the state, and lo and behold, the information was wrong. And I pity the poor new town clerks that are going by that information because that information was totally incorrect. I can only go by the 31 years of experience I've had in the office.
Okay, the next question goes first to Patty. If the Supreme Judicial Court rules in favor of gay marriages in Massachusetts, clerks would be asked to issue licenses to same-sex couples. After Vermont made civil unions legal in 2000, some clerks in that state refused to issue the licenses. What would be your response if faced with that situation?
Having talked to some of the clerks in Vermont, they were very opposed to having that as part of their responsibility of their job. I believe that everyone is created equal. I'm a Catholic, but my belief is that people can unite any way that they want. As a justice of the peace, I do commitment ceremonies because it's important for me as an individual to assist with a person's own belief system. I readily do commitment ceremonies, and I also do marriages of opposite-sex people.
Wendy?
When the city had come forward a number of years ago with the domestic partner ordinance, our office was already set and ready to go if that had passed. I truly believe that I would implement any legislation or city ordinance that was passed without any hesitation. And as Patty had said, and I agree with her, that everyone is created equal when they walk through that door.
And Mark?
Absolutely not. I absolutely would not sign that. Marriage is a contract between a man and a woman. It's been between a man and a woman since the beginning of time. As far as it's up to me, in my eyes, it's not a marriage. I wouldn't do it. I would not file it.
Okay, the next question goes first to Wendy. All four of the current staff in the city clerk's office have applied for the early retirement plan. If you are elected, you'll have to replace at least one person and perhaps as many as 3 people in the office. How would you fill those positions, and what qualities are important in the people who would be working for you?
Well, first of all, I would be sitting down with the Director of Human Resources, and we would be talking about that. The most important skills that anyone needs to have in our office is computer skills. Because our office, we have created in our office, we aren't as fortunate as a lot of the departments in the city to have the state come in and give us state programs and go from there. Everything that has been done in our office has been done and created by the staff in our office, the databases, all the indexing, everything that is done has been done by our office. This year, we are working to start a new dog licensing program because we are out of the county government. And we have worked to create a new database to make it more customer friendly and have the people, because their time is so valuable, to come in, walk in, just print out the license, and they're out the door. I just need to have people that have good computer skills, good communication skills at the counter.
Mark?
Could you repeat that?
Yes.
Sorry.
All 4 of the current staff in the city clerk's office have applied for the early retirement plan. If you were elected, you would then have to replace at least 1 and perhaps as many as 3 people in the office. How would you fill those positions, and what qualities are important to you in the people that would be working in the city clerk's office?
Well, Wendy was definitely right. You do need computer skills. That's probably one of the most important things. I have talked to people in this area. I don't want to name names, but I have talked to 2 people, and if I told them if no one wanted to come back, I'm certainly not going to put anybody out of a job. If anybody from the administration of city clerk wants to stay, they definitely will. I will not put anyone out of work. But if people wanted to leave, if people are going to leave, I do have people in mind that I've talked to that will replace them, that have work, that actually work within the city. But I don't want to name names.
And Patty?
The most important quality of anyone that I would hire is that they like people, that they enjoy working for and with people. I'd also be looking for people with computer skills. I would be looking at people who want to be an active learner, and someone who would be readily accessible to jump in at any project, someone who has a lot of energy and enthusiasm, and who would be loyal to the job.
Okay, thank you. Next question goes first to Mark. What leader...
It's Wendy on question 7?
No, we're on question 8.
Sorry.
What leadership positions have you been in that demonstrate your ability as a manager?
As of yet, none. However, in January, I will be the Ward 3 Republican chairman, a role I look very much forward to having. I've been an active Republican for the last 6 years. I'm very passionate about it. I wish people would get more involved. The Republican Party is growing. Nationally, it's a trend. President Bush won in 2000. We took the Senate in 2002. A Democratic governor was taken away in California just last month. The tide is rising for the Republicans. It's a good time to jump on the bandwagon. Making a little plug for us here, but you know, I'm very much looking forward to being Republican chairman. It's important to me, and that's going to be, whether I win or lose, that's going to be my most important job.
Patty.
After graduating from college, I was the Director of Recreation and Volunteer Services in Greenfield at Franklin Nursing and Rehab Center, and I did that for 8 years. I managed a staff of 5 full-time people and about 60 volunteers. As the Registrar of Voters, I ran that department for a total of 17 years. Currently, I'm the Director at the Council on Aging, something I've been doing for a little over 2 years now. And also just in many of my community activities, the chair of the Democratic City Committee for 6 years, being the president of the Northampton Administrative and Professional Employees Association for 10 years. Many times you just may join an activity, but suddenly you become a person in a leadership role because of the needs of the group. I do things because I like them, I owe it to the community, and it doesn't matter to me if I'm running the activity or the program or if I am just one of the people in the background doing some of the quiet work.
And Wendy.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes.
Okay.
The question is, what leadership positions have you been in that would demonstrate your ability as a manager?
Well, for the last 13 years, I've been the assistant city clerk, and I have 2 full-time employees in the outside office. Actually, we had 2.5, but with the budget cut, that half-time person was eliminated. And ultimately, I am responsible for running that outside office, making sure that any problems that arise, that I deal with them. The city clerk herself is my boss, and I answer to her. And I have had, I was AFSCME president for 10 years. I am a condo association president of Yankee Hill. And I just feel that I have the management skills.
Thank you. We were now supposed to go into the candidates' questions, but because of your brevity, we're far ahead of schedule. So, and the TV audience is expecting us to go until 8:15. So I'll ask three more questions to get some more audience questions to you. As many of you know, on July 1st, 2003, Angela Dion accepted a new position with the City of Northampton as Clerk of the Council, the City Council. This position was created as part of the Mayor's reorganization plan for the city, and on a daily basis, Angela receives training from the current City Clerk. Please tell us how you plan on assisting her with the rest of her training, as she believes she will be in need of it for at least a year. That goes first to Patty.
The first thing that I would do to assist Angela is to move her closer to the city clerk's office, where she would be able to have complete access to all of the records. That would be the first thing I would do. And naturally, not having worked in that office as a city clerk or an employee at all, I would as well be learning, but I would have the ability to have the foresight and the ability to manage records to pull out. I have seen how other city and town clerks have done records management when it comes to planning and zoning. I think that working alongside Angela, I certainly would not be the total leader of that ability for Angela, but I don't think that I would be a detriment to helping Angela out.
Wendy?
Well, and I've worked with Angela. I was the assistant clerk of the council, so she knows I know the job, and I would be able to train her without a problem, from the indexing to the filings to any questions that she had that came up with the city council. The city council is a little bit complex. If you haven't been a part of that position and know what goes on in that position, it's not just the filing of the records. It's knowing what to do with the records and how they are processed. There would not be a problem. Angela, the transition would go very smooth.
And Mark?
Well, I'm not a clerk, and I don't have much clerking experience, so Angela probably couldn't learn a darn thing from me. That's why I say I'm taking this in a different level, you know. I've said it before. I'll probably say it again tonight. If you want a city clerk, you can't do better than Wendy or Patty. If you want something more, if you want a voice in City Hall, if you want someone to stand up for the mayor, if you want to be able to speak at a public meeting, I'm the only choice.
Okay. The next question will go first to Wendy. What do you feel you do better than either of your two opponents that make you the most qualified to be the next city clerk in Northampton?
Listen to the public. We have a very diverse community, and every day is different in the clerk's office. And it's a wonderful job. You have people that are coming in, they may be happy because they've had the birth of their first child. They may have adopted their first child from overseas. And I actually get to see the human side of that child versus that piece of paper that I'm creating. It's wonderful.
Mark?
I agree, working with the people is a benefit to doing the job. I like working with people, especially Northampton people. I've lived here my entire life, and I certainly know a lot of them. Could you repeat the question again, please?
Yes. What do you do better than either of your two opponents that would make you most qualified to be the next city clerk?
Yell at the mayor? Once again, I'm the only person that will stand up and not be subservient to the mayor. I owe the administration here nothing. I've been a thorn in their side for the past 6 years. I'll keep doing that if I'm elected, except at a higher level.
And Patty?
Could you repeat the question, please?
What do you do better than either of your two opponents that makes you most qualified to be the next city clerk?
I think my years of management skills, my leadership skills, and also most anything that I've ever taken on, being a notary, being a justice of the peace, whatever volunteer experience, it's always been to help the community. It's how can I help someone else a little bit more. And I think it's very gratifying when you can help somebody out.
I'm probably better at basketball than both of you, too.
I don't know. I was the captain on our basketball team.
No, I played basketball.
I'm over.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have a little hoops after. All right, this is the last question from me. It goes first to you, Mark. Besides yourself, who was most influential in advising you to run for city clerk, and how did they help convince you that you're the right person for the job?
My wife, my very beautiful, caring wife, who's there for me time and again. Sometimes I didn't even want to do this, but she kept pushing, and I'm very, very blessed to have her.
Patty?
No one actually convinced me to run or talked to me about running. It's something that I solely chose to do on my own. I will say after having made that decision, there was a lot of input from people, and I was very happy that I had made that decision to run for city clerk.
Wendy?
I made the decision solely on my own. I felt that it was the natural progression in the office. It's always kind of been a rite of passage that it was city clerk, assistant, city clerk. It was the next logical move for me.
Okay, now we will move into the next phase of questioning when the candidates will question each other. The first question will be asked by Patty and will be answered first by Wendy and then by Mark.
I actually don't have a question that I'm going to ask Wendy. I feel as when you're employed with the city, many times your family is who you bring along with you. And so I would like to take this opportunity and thank you, Daily Hampshire Gazette, that I could introduce my family, because my family gets interacted in anything that I do, whether it was the Registrar of Voters office or having been the Registrar of Voters. So if I could introduce my husband, Harry Petrucci, my daughter, Jenny Shaughnessy, and my son, Patrick Shaughnessy.
Patty, do you have a question you want to ask?
No, that was,
either
I
Wendy
used my
or Mark?
time for that. Thank you.
Okay. Wendy, then your turn to ask a question, first to be answered by Mark and then Patty.
Okay. The functions of the city clerk's office are especially critical, especially when an attorney needs access to information, or when they need to make required timely filings, or when they wish to obtain a birth, death, or marriage certificate. What experience and knowledge do you have in those areas?
Why should an attorney be different from Joe Schmo off the street? It doesn't matter. Everyone in Northampton who comes into the office wants information is going to get it. It really doesn't matter if it's President Bush or if it's Jeff Primo. They want something.
But my question was, what is your experience and knowledge in those fields?
It's irrelevant, Wendy. I'm sorry, but I'd treat people who came in the same way. It doesn't matter if you're a lawyer or a no one.
Okay. Thank you.
Patty?
Having not worked in the city clerk's office, I would not have been given lawful access to any records to file. As a justice of the peace, I've filed licenses for marriages that I've done, but that experience is nil within the city clerk's office. But over the last 17 years and more currently the last 3 months, I've been visiting city and town clerks, so I have followed them without, of course, touching various records of how you file birth, how you file marriage, how you file death, how you file zoning and planning. And I will say that there is an array of ways everything is done in every city and town clerk's office, but the main focus is that everybody follows the law.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, Mark, you may now ask a question of Patty and then Wendy.
I'd just like to know, if either of you were elected, how long would you both be planning to take the job, or would the taxpayers be stuck with another early retirement?
Who answers first?
Patty?
I can't retire for a long time. And I don't think that I would want to retire for a long time. I enjoy working for the city of Northampton. I have been given great opportunities in the city, both as a volunteer and as an employee. I was very surprised, though I can completely understand Chris Skrupski's retiring. I always thought that we would retire together. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but I would look forward to many years, as long as the laws didn't change too much, where there certainly would someday be an elimination of a city or town clerk, which I don't think will happen.
And Wendy?
Well, I really hope that I can stay till I really need to retire, which is age 60. That's it.
Works for me.
Okay, Patty, you now have an opportunity to ask a question of Mark and Wendy.
I don't have a question to ask Mark and Wendy. I know that we were supposed to have prepared questions, but I actually was going to take this opportunity to provide voter education, something that I'm used to doing, and that is the three of us are having our names written in our stickers, and I would just like to say that if you spell a name wrong, Shaughnessy is not one of the easiest names to spell, but if you wrote Patty, or if you wrote P.S., or you wrote Patty Shawn, it is the intent of the voter. And please, though it isn't absolutely necessary to connect those zeros, it makes it easier for our election workers. And because those would be hand counted, I don't think people want to stay at the polls anymore till 12 o'clock counting, now that we have great electronic voting machines.
All right, I'll give both Mark and Wendy an opportunity to do some voter education as well.
Well, just remember that when you go to the polls and you see this ballot, you're going to see Christine Skrupski's name. please don't vote for her. She doesn't want to be elected. And as Patty said, the intent of the voter, if they write in Mazza, they write in Hickey, they write in Shaughnessy, the intent of the voter is there. We would like you, though, to really connect the arrow. It's going to make for a much smoother night, and maybe not so long.
Mark?
Well, my basketball skills have been come into question. I've said nice things to my wife. There's nothing more that needs to be said except the closing statements.
Well, actually, now Wendy has an opportunity to ask another question of...
I'm all set.
You're passing?
Yeah, I'm-
Mark, you want to ask one last question?
That's
I'm all set.
Okay. Then you're absolutely correct, Mark. We'll now move to closing statements, and you go first.
A candidate for city council put an advertisement in the paper recently that said Northampton isn't like any other city, but it could be, implying the city is in a good direction that could go bad. I think the opposite. I think the city needs improvement. Northampton isn't a city where children can ride the bus for free, but it could be. Northampton isn't a city where you're free to speak to the public if it doesn't go along with what the mayor has to say, but it could be. Northampton isn't a city with something as basic as clean drinking water, but it could be. How do we accomplish this? By not voting for pie-in-the-sky liberals who make a budget that has more money allotted for an official city poet laureate than your children's physical education. We do this by electing a man who has defeated City Hall in the past. We do this by electing Mark Hickey on Tuesday as a step in the right direction to taking our city back. Stand up to the mayor, stand up for yourselves, and more importantly, stand up for Northampton. Write in Mark Hickey, City Clerk.
Patty?
I would welcome the opportunity to serve Northampton as its next city clerk. I would look forward to working with the mayor, city council, and any other members of the general public when it comes to the responsibilities of the city clerk's office. I want to believe that I have always tried to be innovative and loyal and continue with vast integrity because it's very important to me to serve the public in a positive manner. I want to use my management and leadership skills to bring the city clerk's office to the next step with the merger of the Registrar of Voters office and the city clerk. Please consider me for your vote by writing in my name or using a sticker, Patricia Shaughnessy, city clerk. Thank you.
Wendy?
Thank you, Stan. I have 31 years of experience in the city clerk's office, and it's not what I've done in the community that makes a qualified candidate for city clerk. It's experience, dedication, and being efficient. And if elected, I will continue to provide the citizens of Northampton with the quality of service they've come to depend on. Please write in Wendy Mazza for city clerk on November 4th.
Thank you to the candidates, Wendy, Mark, and Patty, for
Thank you, Stan.
attending tonight. And remember, the election is next Tuesday, and I hope that you consider what you heard tonight when you vote on Tuesday. Thank you and good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was the captain of the basketball team at the high school,
Really?
the girls team.
I play basketball, and I have no cartilage left in my knees because it went up for a layup, came down, and that's...
Well, actually, that's nothing. What's so great about nothing?